Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How you all doing tonight? How is your week? Some of y'all had some rough weeks. Some of y'all had some easy sailing, easy flowing weeks, whatever it might be. I welcome you to Let's Talk Up Close and Personal. I am Dr. Nathalie Chase Thompson, and my special guest this evening will be none other than the doctor, Renette Slater Jr., author of Dying to Live. This is a do-over. Yes, this is a do-over. And we're not going to prolong the time because we're going to do this within 1 hour. Yes, I said it, within 1 hour. So tag and share, tag and share, tag and share with your friends, with your family, with your foes. Tag and share. Get engaged. Put your comments, your questions, whatever the case may be, especially those that have already gotten the book. Make sure you comment. How about that? Okay? All right. So, without further ado, the doctor, introducing to some and presenting to others. The doctor, Renette Slater Jr. Yeah, it is what it is, but it is what it is. He is a friend, he is a colleague, but more than anything, his tagline is, I do this for real. And trust and believe he does just that. He does what he does for real, from the heart. So, good evening, Dr. Slater. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Natalie and Facebook. I am doing well. Just sitting here trying to tag in some folk. But how are you? I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you. Glad for you to be here as always, as always. We did this a couple of weeks ago, but it was on both of our hearts to come back and do it for real. We are not here to publicize or to glamorize or to ridicule or anything, but just to talk about the book, talk about the nature of the book, talk about the heartbeat of the book. So with that being said, I already got some questions. Now, we can dive into the questions, but before I do that, I want Dr. Slater to share what's on his heart and what he wants to get out of tonight.
Wow, I wasn't ready for that one. Well, I just want to first and foremost, been getting a lot of questions about the book. Some serious questions, some curious questions, some spectating questions. But tonight, overall, what I'm hoping to share from this book is my heart. A true understanding that I know many probably could have thought that it was written from a bitter place or a hurt place or looking for some form of sympathy or empathy. Mm-hmm. But I really want the reader to walk away from my journey is the heart of a true father and an encounter of real love.
All right.
Love with a God that, down through the years, two things that has been number one for me. Prayer is what got me through a lot of situations. And I mean real prayer, not just that now I lay me down to sleep kind of prayer or God is great, God is good, let us thank him for our food. No, a real heart-to-heart conversation with the Father, and from a place where I could really be me without judgment, and the Father responds. So I wanted this book to be uh, a tool that can help direct people back to what God looks for from us anyway, and that is to have a conversation with us. Secondly, I wanted the encounter. I want the reader to walk away with, hey, this is me. That was me. And then to see me in my now, to say, if this is what he encountered, then I can go ahead and get excited about what I'm getting ready to walk into. Because if this is his end result, then I can only imagine what mine will be. And it'll cause someone to want to keep pressing.
All right, absolutely, absolutely. So instead of it, it's an encourage thyself type to motivate you through the journey, through the process.
Yes, so to speak, yes.
I like that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump in with some of the questions.
And I can't see
Wanna,
I can't see comments. I don't know if they're optional on here, but
yes, there are options on there. But you can, but those that are on your Facebook are those that are on Facebook, they'll actually be able to see them as well. So one of them, of course, is what was your favorite chapter and why?
um, all of them really were. But if I had to, like, a real ha moment, or what was most ministering to me, was probably chapter 10. And that was, I believe, let me look at it. Why aren't you talking? And the reason why, because I think when I started to write, well, when I wrote it from the present, the mind frame I was in, which a lot of people don't know, and it's probably going ahead of the journey, but since it's already public knowledge, that I did 9 months of, I was incarcerated for 9 months, 9.5 months, I believe it was, in DeKalb County Jail. And it was during that time that, it was my first time being incarcerated. Secondly, I spent a lot of time in my cell. Like I didn't have to go out into population and all that other good stuff. If I didn't have to leave the room, I was one of those that was good. So I probably only came out just for a count. That's for those who ain't never been in. That's when they come around and they do their counts, and they account that every inmate is in or whatever. And then for child time, which I didn't eat, because I thank God for those that made sure I had commissary or money on my books. So I ordered whatever I needed from commissary. So I don't even know what jailhouse food tastes like. So I don't have those kind of stories or what have we. But two things I did. One was I started to recount, remembering my grandma singing songs around the house.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I really didn't know. I just thought they were gospel songs, but later to find out they were hymns, and then understanding that the hymns meant something. So I was sitting in their cell, and a lot of times it really, when I first started, was like at night. I think it was like I had to go in like 8 o'clock, and when you're in jail, you lose sense of time. Yeah. But it seems like forever from that last time you have to lock down till the time they come around to wake you up in the morning. And my body had not adjusted. So I'm sitting in this room, confined in this little box. And I found myself singing, not realizing I was singing loud. or whatever, songs that I heard my grandma and stuff like that, like Pass Me Not, Oh Gentle Savior, uh, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, and my all-time favorite, I Love You, Jesus, or Oh How I Love You, not the new I Love You, the one Shirley Caesar did. Uh, oh How I Love You, and those songs were ringing. It wasn't until one morning, I think when we went out, I heard guys like, well, who's that singing the night before? And uh, I luckily said me. Then I found myself getting requests. People wanted me to sing, saying that I helped them sleep.
Oh,
That
wow.
even those that were there for a while had said that they finally were able to sleep and those kind of things. But anyway, getting back to this particular chapter, because I think I start out in this chapter reminiscing about those songs.
Mhm.
And then I went back to a moment where going back to God, like, okay, I'm talking to you. 9 chapters prior to this, I ain't even supposed to be talking to you. I'm done with you. Just leave me alone. I think there's a chapter that say leave me alone, but oh, why don't you leave me alone? Whatever. And now I'm ready to talk to you, and it's almost like you got nothing to say. And then I think it was at this juncture in the 10th chapter where I started to not only acknowledge what had got me to on this train to begin with, but I started to call it out, which means by going back to God, why, what about this? You're this, and you let him do this. And I actually called out what had actually taken place and throwing it back in God's face. It's almost like, okay, I'm ready to talk and you still ain't saying nothing. Now, he ain't been talking the whole time, but that's what this chapter was really all about. It was running from a place, but also finding myself in a place that I found a whole lot of solitude, a whole lot of peace, a whole lot of strength. And then now I'm conflicted, I'm confused. I can't stand you, but I love you too much. I don't want to have nothing to do with you, but I want to be in your presence. It just took me back to the DeKalb County days.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing the correlation of that. But yeah, it as well as you set the premise unbeknownst to you for the rest of the questions. because because the next question that came in was about chapter 10. And so you just answered it. It was like, why aren't you talking? And but they were saying that it was specifically, what is it, on page 102. So I'm telling you, you got to get this book. And it was
102.
about, oh yeah, that it was about that. That's what it says. Why aren't you talking? And you want me to talk, right? Yeah. So you having one of them conversations like, okay, any other time you want me to talk to you, and you talking to me, and now you don't want to talk. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And they were like, throughout the book, you did something that most people would say, oh no, that's just not right. You just don't talk to God like that. You don't, and the way that they were sharing, it was, what it was, let me see. Okay, you had a beef with God and had no problem voicing it. So when did you become so comfortable with voicing truth, not, what does it say? Sugarcoating your dislikes to God? Because you have a tendency of doing that in several parts of the book. I'm just saying.
um, that's wow. I ain't never looked at it. That question or that statement and question all compiled into one really got me like, I ain't gonna, almost like speechless. I guess I wasn't preparing that, expecting that. But the best way I can answer it, because that's really good. I never looked at it that way, of me just talking smack to God or being bold. I think that's what you said, being bold and not sugarcoating. Um, I guess that would be one of those natural traits that I had already had. I don't know if that's a gift or what have we, but I had up until this part, I had been preaching for years.
Mhm.
Uh, I've been in church all my life. Now, was the church in me? Well, that's a whole nother story, but I've been in church all my life. And ever since gracing the podium, I want to always believe that I spoke truth.
Okay.
Um, I spoke truth. I was loyal to truth. I understood truth. I understood in other words, I understood my assignment. I understood what God required of me.
Mhm.
And I knew the weight of the assignment, but I also knew the weight of God.
Ah,
And because I knew the weight of God. So what some would say that what gives me the tenacity to be bold, to confront God, it would be what I would like to interject here. I think I was, I want to say I'm a rare breed when it comes to ministry, because religion,
mhm.
religious systems and doctrines have us stuck.
Okay.
And so a lot of things that you see in correlation to the responses of people in the church as it relates to certain things is from a religious mindset, but don't realize that it is in error. And so I'll say it like this: from the time that I started ministering, I was already kicking against the grain. I was already challenging the system. So it was natural for me. Now to bring it forward, to get to the question at hand, to make it make sense. So when it came down to what we consider, oh, you going to hell because you talking to God like this, and you ain't supposed to be straight up that honest or whatever, which we're really supposed to be. But to make it make sense with the journey is I've been working for a system, faithful and loyal, that I'm now on the run, not because of the devil,
Mhm.
because I'm tired of the system that I've been working for, because I felt like I've been played, I've been bamboozled, I've been used, I've been whatever. So at this juncture, I actually didn't care what he was thinking and how he felt. I just made up in my mind at that time I was done.
Okay.
And since I knew the weight of God in my own intellect, and I guess this is why the Bible said, lean not to your own understanding,
Mhm.
because in my own intellect, I'm thinking that my in error or my direct rebellion or defiance to God was going to be my one-way ticket to death, which is what I was really screaming for, but
Okay.
didn't have the tenacity to do it myself. I took the word literal when it said the wages of sin is death, but the
Mhm.
gift of God is eternal life. So now in my own crazy mind, if I do the opposite of what God wants me to do, then God can do what I don't have the guts to do on my own. And that was to take me out.
So, in other words, you were on a suicide mission,
Most definitely.
and people don't realize that there are so many people just like you were at that time. They really, the main focus is, I just want to die. I want to be done with this. I want it over. But they don't have the courage to do it themselves. So they put themselves in position to make other people do it for them.
So to speak, and they go on, the system, the religious system makes it
Yes.
difficult for people to authentically express themselves. Because
Yes.
even during that time, you know what I'm saying? Because you say something like that, people automatically they want to tell you, I quit saying that. That's just the demon. That's a devil. That. And so people are losing themselves because if they say anything, people go either tell them how they feeling, tell them what they thinking, or better yet, and I think one juncture of it is, and I'm learning now, but even during that time, you know, you're forced People don't realize they're forcing you to stay. The church, I'm gonna say it that way, since we're dying to live. In this juncture, the church forces people to stay in a abusive, depressive state. And I don't mean abusive and depressive because of a bad relationship or a bad job. Sometimes we force people to act like they don't exist by forcing them to do what we say God requires them to do.
Yes.
And so we're teaching people, and I said this in the leadership, not knowing that it was this, we're teaching people about everything is demonic. You're on your way to hell, that nobody ever took the time to really teach us how to have a one-on-one real encounter with Jesus.
All
And
right.
I think that's what this journey taught me and what I'm hoping someone to walk away. At the end of the day, this is not about your mom and your daddy. This is not about your ex-boo and your ex-bae. And because people always got these little cute phrases that put to say XYZ, but in my mind, all that matters is the one who made it all possible. My grandma and all y'all church folk taught us to believe that he knows your beginning and your ending. He knew you before you came out your mama womb. He know your thoughts before you have need of them. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. And in my crazy mind, he couldn't have known this, because there ain't nowhere in the world this God y'all made me to believe, you know what I'm saying, will allow me to go through this. But during this journey, I found out that this was a part of this relationship with God.
Yeah.
And so if they had prepared me for this, it probably would have made it a whole lot easier. But then here's the oxymoronic though. If they had prepared me for this, who's to say I would become the man that I am today?
Damn. Made it easy for you. Yes. Yes. So, which brings me to this question. And feel free, any of you that are watching, feel free to pose your question and your comments. Make sure, and I'm going to actually ask Dr. Slater what you're sharing. I've got mail.
Because I can't see the comments.
Okay.
You said I've got mail?
I've got mail. I've got mail. That's what they put. I've got mail. Would you have ever done this if everything was, what is it? Would you have normally done this under normal circumstances?
You asked the doctor, psych, that question. Because I'm not normal. I've never been normal. I don't remember ever being normal. And I ain't being funny or like biblical. I just don't, I've never saw myself as normal, but I'm trying to, I've got mail. That's a question someone said.
Yes, that's all. And they didn't even tell me, they didn't even put what chapter it was in. It just said,
the only thing I can remember about the I've got mail or you got mail is probably what they're referring to. This is after I done finally come out of the church. You know, I have to, and honestly, during that time, I don't know which chapter that was, I think, but you know, I'm trying to get through this church service because I can't believe this man is up here preaching this rhetoric and now just condemn me to straight hell while sitting in the pew over something that I knew I didn't decide to do. And so all I want to do is just get the hell out of Dodge. But because I was so indoctrinated, you know, there's a certain posture you have to have. There's a certain look you have to have, you know, you have to always be strong and this, that, and the other. And all I want to do is get out of Dodge and then finally make it out of the church home. And I found solace. And this is why I'm not going to say I'm sympathetic or empathetic, but this is why people need to shut the hell up when they don't really know what people are going through. They just quit to make judgment off their own perception. But my journey helped me understand how people can hide themselves in social media or on the internet, because it was the internet that I found that comfort that I didn't even know I was looking for. It was the internet that helped me escape my real life pain and situation, because everybody around me, if they had had the evidence thrown in front of them, probably wouldn't have believed it anyway. And we can look at the church today. The church is still like that. You have the evidence that people, whatever, and we're still judging folks, still condemning folks, still all that other good stuff. And so there's a part in the book I think we wrote. I was sitting at the computer and I heard that thing say, "You got mail." The only thing that had "you got mail" back then was AOL. Yeah. Some people probably don't remember AOL, but we didn't have all these different internet sources. You know, all we had was AOL and and you had to wait till it dialed up. And once it came, "You've got mail," and that mail chime had become my best friend. It was almost like, you know, the best way well, it's hard to say the best. Well, for you, I know you would understand, but a lot of these people today wouldn't know about the house phones, because, you know, back then before the cell phones came along, we only had the house phones and the pay phones, and you may have had the beeper or the pager or whatever, and you had to wait till you got home, and you didn't have the voice where you can call in. You had to wait till you got home and push the little button. That's what AOL was for me. I had tons of message. I had found what I call love. I found freedom. I found, even if it was only for a moment, it made it seem like eternity. So that's what that "you got mail" was for me during that period.
Wow. So let me make sure I'm getting this right. The people that were around you didn't see you.
No, they saw what they wanted to see. And then there are people who, you know, you always have those people, and it's not just, and this is where, and this is an issue in the culture of Black culture. I'm not gonna say all culture, and I'm not racist, but definitely in the Black culture it's the same way in the church. We taught people how to go to church, but we didn't teach them how to get connected in the church with Jesus the Christ. That's what it really matters. Same way in the culture, in the family. You teach people, or you tell people what they need to do, or they need to get a job, or they need to do this, but nobody prepares them psychologically or mentally to know if they're stable, or to train them and prepare them. We preach, and I think I teach this. We teach people about success, but nobody prepares people for failure. And so when they don't succeed, they instantly get angry, or they get hurt, or they get depressed, because people treat them like, "Oh, you ain't no good. You're just lazy." Maybe I'm not lazy. Maybe I just clearly don't understand. Maybe there's an imbalance here or whatever. And I'm going somewhere, because especially for people who have gifts and are talented, whether it's an artist, whether it's a preacher, whether it's a celebrity, people automatically tap into that gift, and it becomes their only way of seeing you, that they never see you for who you are. Yes. I'm more than just my gift. I'm more than just a preacher. I'm more than just saved. Mm-hmm. Have you ever asked me how I felt without telling me how I feel? Have you ever asked me, do I really like doing this, or just assume I like doing it because I do it? Because I know you've heard me say it, and I know my church heard me say it all the time. Don't get it twisted. Just because I showed up at the church don't mean I want to be here. Yeah. I just got enough sense to know I have no choice of the matter. If he orders the steps of a man, I'm just here doing what he called me to do. But as soon as the benediction is over, I'm probably ready to get out quicker than you are. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I don't think people knew. And then those who did knew were denial. They were under denial. Now I've learned over the years, and I have a better sense that some of the people that I probably would have expected to know, that I've probably been holding grudges to, like, just, I mean, because I'm a typical boy, you know, I have tantrums like everybody else. I had my season where I'm mad with my daddy, mad with my mama, mad with my family. You know what I'm saying? But then as I gotten older and as God has taken me, and I look back, I realized that some of them wouldn't have been able to help me because they had their own issues they have not acknowledged.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things in the family that are never addressed. It's talked over, but not dealt with. And so, yeah, so I mean, I can stay there all day and night. I can probably do a series. So I'm gonna just move. I hope I answered. I know I'm a little long-winded, but I want to try to give clarity
Yes.
to because
Yes. Well, you have a question from LaKenya Frazier. She said, have you seen or ever talked, confronted the person that hurt you?
I've seen, I've talked, had conversations, been on the same platform, and been around and even embraced, hug, and very pleasantry. So yes, I've seen them on many occasions. Now, I can't read the comments, so I might have to ask you to repeat the latter part of that.
Okay. All right, let me put my glasses on. All right. It says, so you've seen him or her, you talked to them. Have you confronted the person that hurt you?
Confronted. I've been in the presence, and I don't know if that's confronting, because I'm talking from two veins. I'm not back in that place, but if I was in that place, I've probably been face to face in a rainy kind of way, like, yeah, I ain't scared of you. I see you. But confront in the way that I think the question is posed, we've never talked about it. I haven't addressed it to them, and they haven't said anything to me. And outside of the book or whatever, I don't even know if they even know I even remember it or even have an issue with it, because I've never directly sat down with them and say, hey, what you did to me hurt me. What you did to me bothered me. Now, when I talk, because where I sit, I would advise people that if you do, sometimes you have to confront it. You've heard me say, sometimes you got to have the difficult conversation. But as for me, I felt like there was no need for me to have a conversation about something that I was far over.
Yes.
That God did the healing. He did. And then it helped me. Now I'm where I sit. I understand that even unbeknownst to them, that maybe they didn't realize what they did. And I mean, naturally, yeah, they did. But spiritually, maybe they were the only pawn, because, you know, I say God treat us like we're on a game of life. We're just pawns. And he's rolling a dice and we're just moving. So from a spiritual perspective, I felt like they were the most likely candidate to be used to help put me on the journey that God needed me to take.
Wow. Simply
Simply because I'm arrogant. I was arrogant. I was very bold, very straightforward, always been open with my mouth. And I think because of the level of reverence that I have for them, if it had been anybody else, I probably would have crucified them to threads or what have we. So at this juncture, it's not a hindrance. So no, I haven't confronted. Now, do I have moments where I'm like, I wish, I want to know how they feel, or should I go and say, because I wanted to go and, you know, be like, yo, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. And it would come off crazy because maybe I was the tempter. Maybe I was the one leading. And I know my psych friends and others will say, no, that's like a victim now trying to take the, I don't blame me, but these are kind of thoughts that I went through my head. Yes. Because there's a part of the book, and this is the dead giveaway or whatever, but I've already wrote it in this, that I made highlights where I even questioned, were they the only one? Mm-hmm. Was that the first time I had ever really truly been quote unquote violated? Or had I suppressed everything that I put everything on them? Yeah. And then it started to have me thinking that maybe I had this sign on my back. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this is what I wanted or something. I don't know. But no, I haven't confronted them in that sense. But I've been in their presence on several occasions. Matter of
And
fact, I had to preach on a platform that they sat on,
okay.
and no effect.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you just brought up too, because so many people that are currently in that place, as well as those that have experienced it years ago, childhood, and they're adults now, they suppress things. They say they suppress things, and something can happen now that opens a floodgate, which causes people to start wondering, was it my fault? Did I, like you said, did I do something? Did I put myself in that position? Did I present this and da 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 da? And with us, because of what we do outside of the church and inside of the church, we try and get the person to not have, like you say, the victim mentality. But in reality, that question does, because it happened to me. And I question, what did I do? Well, maybe I did such and such, I was built up and da 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 da. And perhaps that's why. And you have sparked some questions. Celestine Pickett says, what motivated you to forgive and move forward?
What motivated? I don't know if it was more so. Yeah, I'll say it had to be motivation. What motivated me was I went from dying to now living
Mm,
in my own mind. But this was way after. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen years after, because even during this juncture, I'm still preaching. I'm still doing what I do. It's just naturally in me, while yet still doing what I want to do, or what have we. But I'll just say it for the sake of, since it hadn't been written, and I don't want to get too ahead of the next book or what have we, but I would just say, after I've had my Damascus Road encounter with Jesus, after me and Jesus made up, he was no longer, I wasn't no longer mad at him. After we rekindled our relationship, we had broke up. I was done with him, the whole 9 yards. And then after I had backslid, and he still stayed married to me or whatever, and we got back on the right road or whatever, and now I can see, now I can hear. And I remember those scriptures I've always held on to those scriptures my grandma always beat me over the head with, that sometimes, I don't know if she watching tonight, but sometimes I think she forget them scriptures she beat me up with or whatever. But I'll just say it this way. I made up in my mind, I want to see Jesus. And I knew, after I now have this relationship, that the only way I could see him was I had to be in a position to forgive.
okay.
If he was able to forgive me, not for the stuff that happened to me, and I say that all the time. People want to talk about the stuff that people did to us, but, and I even teach this in my church, is that I'm not thanking God for the stuff he forgave me for. I'm thanking him for the stuff he didn't even deal with me about, that he could have. He could have completely taken me out of here. He could have completely destroyed everything there is about me. And there's a key scripture that says, even when we pray, our Father which art in heaven, forgive us as we forgive. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm not willing to forgive, the Father is not willing to forgive me. And I don't want to stand in my own way of seeing him when he comes back. So that is my key motivation, even today. That's a good question, but not only about that person, but everything about life. I pinned the phrase, you know what I'm saying? God don't hold me accountable for what you do. He hold me accountable for what I do. And although I could sit and go back and forth about what you did, at the end of the day, when I have to stand before judgment, my mama, my dad, and my grandma, ain't nobody gonna be there but me and him.
That's
And
it.
he ain't gonna want to hear what everybody else did. He gonna want to hear what Rennie did.
Yes.
Why didn't you do this? Well, what had happened was, okay, well, hell is your portion. Now I'm gonna be double mad. I gotta live here in hell because of you, and then I gotta die and go to hell because of you. They said, well, I ain't do nothing. I chose not to forgive. So my constant motivation is to not wake up in grudges
Yes.
and to always forgive, even when I don't know uh, if it's deserved or not. I
Oh,
just
wow.
forgive just because.
Wow. Okay. Good evening, Miss Bessie Hayes. Good evening. Good evening. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
Auntie.
She was the very first one on here. I didn't even notice that. Good
Well,
evening.
hey, everybody again.
Yeah,
But
everybody.
I can't see the comment.
I know. This has to do with your tribute, and this one is about Apostle Tiffany. That season is over, and they actually put it ranged between page 111 to 115. You were talking about a suit.
Huh?
You were talking about a suit. You went in the store and you saw a suit that you wanted, and it fit perfectly, but then it was gone.
The reason why it became a tribute, just for the record, that was the actual full transcript of the affirmation message that I delivered when my sister Tiffany was elevated to the office of apostle. I was fortunate enough to be the hand that God used to seal that affirmation, and I delivered the apostolic address, the message, the sermon. And I thought it would have been, um, I thought it was very pivotal to highlight that as my tribute to her, because even those words then are still just as powerful and relevant now. And it centered around Moses, you know, where I think I told the people, I'll get to the suit. The suit was just, for everybody that don't know, we're taught in seminary to do our introduction, our poem, and the whole 9 yards. So that suit would have been like the icebreaker. And it just went along with the sermon. I went to go find a jacket. I'm a very small guy, always been small. So when it comes down to suits, even jackets, blazers, or pants, no matter where I go, I'm gonna have to, I just can't go get it off the rack like some of y'all can and take it home. It's gonna have to be some alteration. But this particular blazer actually fit me like it was made for me, or what have we. And typical us, when I could have got it, I didn't. I put it back there and I left. And then when I thought about it again, I went back thinking that it'll still be there. Unfortunately, at that time, I didn't know that stores, especially designer stores and suits and clothes, they sell clothes based off seasons. And so the season was no longer in. So it just perfectly went in with that season is over. But the message centered around Moses, and God wanted him to get up and go. And I'm not going to go into it, but just to make sense out of it. I told us then in that particular message that it's one thing when you sick and tired of something, and you sitting there talking about, I'm sick and how long? I even have people that say, well, Apostle, how long? How long? How long? How much I got to put up with this? I didn't do that. Those kind of questions. But if we go back to the text, Moses didn't go to God. God went to Moses and said, you've been there long enough. And God, if I Slaterize it, God said, matter of fact, not only have you been there long enough, I'm sick of seeing you go around in circles or whatever. So I told the people, it's one thing when you're sick and tired of you, but it's a whole nother ball game when God gets sick and tired of your situation. Because if God gets sick and tired of your situation, you know without a shadow of a doubt, things are about to change. Yes. And it's going to change for the better. Somebody said, well, how you know? it's going to change for the better. Because he said, I know the plans that I have for you, thoughts of good and not of evil. And so it was that we penned that season is over.
Got you. Now the second part was, and it was funny because the question started off with Apostle Tiffany, but then it ended about the tribute with your nephew, and they were saying how it was saying that it seems like you were hurt, but you were speaking. It was what it said. It was more heartfelt. It was a heartfelt message that you sent, and the fact that you were preaching, you kept referencing that you were preaching to to your family, to the living and not to the dead. That's what their takeaway was.
Wow. Same thing, different. I understand, and I'm glad they actually saw it that way, but wow. Same thing. The tribute to my nephew was actually the actual transcript to the eulogy. I had to eulogize my nephew, and it was an entire transcript from his eulogy. The difference is, it goes back to what I said earlier, where my gift, I naturally do. Rather hurt, rather bothered, rather mad, whatever, I'm going to do it. It's just naturally in me. So the preacher had no choice to show up. Mm-hmm. But this time at my nephew's funeral, there were a whole lot of emotions. I was angry all over again. And for those that a lot of people don't know, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't expecting my nephew not to come home. I got a call, go to the hospital. I'm just thinking it's just a random sickness, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go cheer my nephew up, talk to my sister, I did not know how severe it was. And when I found out just some stuff, even in the interim of me being there, I got angry. I was angry at a lot of people. I was angry at God again. I was sure enough angry with my family. And I mean, and not just, and so we don't get it, like not my inner circle, just the family, the bloodline as a whole from generations prior to me, because I felt like at some point enough is enough. This is a result of families always spending a whole lot of time talking at stuff and not really dealing with stuff. And so all that stuff started to build up, and then I started to see Rainy. I think it was one of those cases that forced Rainy to come out, that I started, some of the things that my nephew were encountering, that I found out that he had encountered and was going through, I lived those things. You know what I'm saying? And I mastered them, but I never had the opportunity to talk to him. And not so because of him, could be because of me. I got so comfortable with doing ministry that I forgot about family. And a lot of times I probably work myself so, or always on the go, because even to this day, sometimes I don't really know if I'm genuinely wanted with certain family members. I have this phrase now, I don't know if I'm noticed unless it's usually I want to know if it's a funeral or do they need something because of my work or whatever the case may be. Because those the only times I really feel like I'm noticed with some folk. And so when I stood up to deliver the eulogy, I thought I was more than prepared. And I think it was almost like Rennie was the devil. And as soon as the preacher got up to do what the preacher wanted to do, he let the preacher pray and whatever. And then he just pushed the preacher down and took over the mic. Okay. And now Rennie is standing face to face with his family. But it wasn't from a negative place, because I know that's what people was getting ready to hope I was going. Not from a negative place, but from a place of pleading that we needed to get it together. we can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I'm talking to family. You know what I'm saying? We're church oriented. We're church based. All of us come from the gospel. And yet there's all of this animosity, all of this hatred, all of this foolishness. At some point, enough is enough. I was not there to talk to my nephew. Funerals are not for the dead, it's for the living. The dead has already made its place with God. And those that died in Christ, we know they only sleeping anyway.
Yeah.
So the message was for those that were still living, that we now have an opportunity to get right, that one day we'll be able to see our loved ones again. And I thought it was very important for me to put it in the book because, you know, we typical. We hear and we don't hear. And even those that didn't genuinely, authentically get the book to support, they would go get the book to be nosy.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to see what I was going to write about or who I was going to talk about or this, that, and the other. So the first thing that was going to slap them in the face is the message that I believe God wanted the family to hear. Worship while wounded. But the only way we go get through this, we going to have to do it for real. Ain't no more playing games. Ain't no more shaking and jiving. It is what it is. Let's call a spade and keep it moving. You ain't got to like me, ain't got to like you. But if we want to make it to heaven, we're going to have to get this thing straight down here. So yes, it was from a personal place. I wanted to talk directly to the heart of family.
Yes. Okay. Brianna Nicole, she said, what did you mean when you said, before I let you hurt me, I will hurt you 10,000 times more, and I won't even have to touch you? And that's going to be our last question for our live. But for those of you that come back for the replay, if you have questions, I'll make sure he gets them and that he'll respond to them as well.
I was just actually getting good, and it's it's 8 o'clock already. We can't do another.
Go a few minutes. We're gonna go a few minutes over, but that's okay. Go. I'm not gonna slight you from answering that question.
All right, so here it is. I'm gonna do something that preachers don't do. During that time in juncture, again, highly gifted, I know. And you couldn't pay me to believe that I wasn't anointed. I knew I had to, because, you know, church folk have a habit of stripping you out of your anointing because you fall into sin.
Yes.
And I thank God for the wherewithal of knowing him for myself, because I teach that just because a person sinned, God don't strip his glory off of them like the church teach. Mm-hmm. Because if that was the case, the evidence of my preaching and my teaching would have been false. Because if I say God said it, God performed it. And a lot of those revelations that God gave me were, and I'm not giving nobody a license to do, because just because it worked for me may not work for you, came during the time that I was in my mess. Yes. That it was almost like God said, all right, I don't care how dirty you get, you go still get your butt up and do what I called you to do, and the whole 9 yards. So at that juncture, I saw, I'm a seer. I can see things, I can hear things. And when people say, okay, your spirit ain't right, I can feel a spirit before it even gets into my proximity. I still had that operation. And so I want to believe that during this season of me trying to get away, because I don't know if we remember, there was a part of the book where I said, I'm on this train and I was aggravated with the people that was on the train and they hadn't even done nothing to me. But then I talk about there was a time when I would normally see them and I would want to be a blessing. I would encourage them, I would whatever. So I think during this juncture, in this season, when I said, I'll hurt you 10,000 times plus, I was done with God and his people. Okay. And I had an advantage that they didn't have. They may not have knew who I was, but I knew who they were. And so I think during this season, I mismanaged my gift. Okay. I illegally used the operation. Whether people want to call it manipulative, whether they want to call it this, that, and the other, I call it just taking advantage of a benefit that I still had. I had. It's almost like getting fired from a job and they never took the key, nor did they change the locks. You still have access.
Wow. Wow. I can't even come back on that one. Yes, because you're right about that. Um, mm. So you still had access.
Still had
Hurt
access.
you, still had access. And the fact of no matter where you are, no matter what state life may find you in, you still had an obligation to do what God said for you to do. Wounded, still got to do what you have to do. In your mess, you still have to do what God said you have to do. I like that.
And not always willing.
Not
But
not always
I
willing.
got to a point in my life now that I understand. You can, and I even teach this, you can do it voluntarily or involuntarily. It would be better if you do it voluntarily, because we got to go through suffering anyway. But I'd rather go through the suffering being covered by God than to go through suffering being out of his permissive will.
Wow. Yes. Your Aunt Bessie says, I thank God for all this. Is very inspiring. My nephew has been a great help to me in many situations. God first. He has plans for all of us.
Wow. Thank you, Auntie. That's my great aunt, my grandma's baby sister.
And the thing about it, the fact that she can celebrate you, that means that's a testament to the life that you live.
And
That's
she
from
know,
the inside. That's
and
what I'm saying. That's from the inside.
she know the after Rennie and she know the before Rennie. The Rennie that was no good. And I teach that. It's one thing when people, because we travel, we meet a lot of people, and people know what you present to them. It's only the people who truly know where you come from that can testify if you've been, if you're not. And I've always tried, and I try to live by that. No, I don't profess to being perfect or flawless. I don't. But I've always tried to be authentically true, even at the point that it may hurt you. That, as a colleague and a friend, I'm the point. I think I said to especially those that don't get it twisted. Just because I love you and we friends and this, that, and the other, don't think I won't use that thing to and I want somebody to do the same thing with me. Life has taught me. I'm at a place now with dying, and that's what dying to live. That was one of the questions I thought I would have gotten. Nobody really asked, but dying to live for me is not what people really thought it was. The Bible said we have to die to us daily. And I believe that what I was saying in essence spiritually, that all I want to do is live. God, that's all I want to do. Can I be me? Can I live my life? Can I live and be happy? Can I live and be free? If I'm going to do this, I have to get something out of this. It ain't gonna be just a one-sided. You done screwed me over for a long time. I no longer have a pimp. I'm a free agent. And this is where religious folk would get bothered. And because all of us are free agents. I know we like to say we are the sons of God. We're not the sons of God until we become the believers of God and the doers of God. Then we become the sons of God. But what makes one a free agent? Because Jesus said, whosoever will, let him come. And so anybody that comes into Christendom have to be there because they want to be, not because somebody forced them. Holy Spirit is a gentleman. Jesus is a gentleman. Jesus has access to go wherever he wants to go. Now watch this. Isn't it crazy that he's omnipotent, omniscient, and all those good things? He's everywhere at the same time. Isn't it funny that he's where you were, where you started? He's ahead of your journey. So he's there when you get there, but yet he's with you on the way. So imagine he's in your house. He's outside of your house, in your house, behind your house. But yet he stands at the door and knocks and said, if any man open, I will come in. That if you don't open the door, he ain't gonna force himself on you. And so now that I'm a free agent, I desire to be where he is. I want to be where he is. There is absolutely nothing that can keep me from, and this is something I think I'll throw, because I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it was in this book, and I know it's not going to be in the next. I don't know if it'll be in the third or the fourth book, but I don't foresee it, so I'll say it here. This is a bonus that I'll give on your platform, and that is, I'm at the point now that I'm embracing that I'm no longer mad with him for what I went through. I'm honored that he thought enough of me to be able to handle what he put me through. So it is a privilege and an honor to be used by God, not for me, but somebody else's life can be restored. Somebody else can be helped. Somebody else can get clarity. Somebody else who don't have a voice can hear my voice. And although they may never say it, they can get their freedom through my release. And this is what Jesus meant when he said, or this is what the church meant, what must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for it. This is my cross that I picked up, not for me, but for those behind me.
Absolutely.
One of the things I said to my son, and I said a lot, that I only share with you and talk to you and as straightforward with you because I understand you got your own life to live. Your daddy was there. You know what I'm saying? I ain't finna stand in the way, but I don't want you to have to make the same decisions I made. I took the journey so you wouldn't have to. And what was easy for me may not be as easy for you. And so if you can watch my life, let it be a testament that you can avoid some things. However, if you choose to follow down my path, at the end of the day, just be man enough to deal with the consequences, be it good or bad, because your dad took his. That's your bonus. I'm done. Wow.
All right.
It's 8 o'clock already.
Get your book, Dying to Live. The website address has been pinned in the comments at www.amazon.com/author/RJ Slater Jr. Get your copy. I didn't do a whole lot of talking because I wanted to allow the questions. I wanted to allow Dr. Slater to share his thoughts, his heart, and to let you know more about him. And to see, yes, the apostle, yes, the doctor, but the father, the grandfather, the son, the nephew, the uncle, the man.
Granddaddy.
The man that God has called him to be, all while dying to live. So I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed hearing. But more so, I know you'll enjoy reading the book, Dying to Live. So thank you, Dr. Slater, for joining me here for Let's Talk Up Close and Personal. I appreciate you. I honor you. And I have mad respect for what you're doing in Kingdom.
Oh, God.
All that. Well, good night, everybody. Blessings. And we're going to see you soon.